Hey, David from Unqualified Critics here. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate having you. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Evercade, an upcoming handheld retro game platform. And I do say platform, it's not just a handheld console or one-off, and I'll come back to that later, but I think that's the most important part of this. April 9th, 2020, this thing drops. It looks really cool. It has some really good early buzz. I don't know anything about the company behind this, but they've been genius at building buzz, and hats off to them. It seems like we've got a really good product on our hands. I would mention Metal Jesus Rocks has one of these in person, a physical early review unit. He did a really detailed review. After this video, you should check that out. It's useful and you can see this product in person. Reason I'm talking to you about it today, they just announced their Atari Lynx collection. It's a cartridge, and that's how Evercade works. You buy cartridges to expand it and add more games, and each cartridge is thematically linked, generally by a publisher. But for the Atari Lynx, it's actually linked by platform. So you buy that cart and you get 17, presumably of the best Lynx games. Not that there are hundreds of games available for the Lynx, but you could point to a handful of great games. I had this as a kid. I enjoyed it. I kind of didn't know better. I was young enough at that stage where I wasn't really a discerning consumer, and I would just kind of play whatever was in front of me that maybe my older brother had or what have you. But I dug this, and it had some really unique games that, I had not played anywhere else. I also had the official carrying case, so I was probably one of like 5 people that bought this thing. I mean, look how huge this is. I feel like you carry this to school, you're asking to get beat up. It's like a second backpack. But I liked it. It's cool. If you're ambidextrous, you can do that. You can switch either side, and it's widescreen. The games I had on it, and probably the one that made the biggest impression on me, not my favorite game I played on it, but the one that made the biggest impression, that would be Dracula. This game was like reading the book, but acting it out. And yeah, you only really cover like the first 25% of the book, and then it fast forwards to the end. So it's not a totally faithful recreation. But for that 25%, you are experiencing the book. And that's pretty neat. I actually went back as an adult and read Dracula for the first time. And I'd had memories of the story, and I had to think back, and I thought, oh, I used to play that game. And so I went and watched a Let's Play of it to just revisit it, and that's when I realized how incredibly short it is. But these are small cards. I don't know what the memory limit was on this, but I'm sure it's tiny. So you just can't pack a lot on there. But this made a big impression. Also, the image on the front gave me some really weird feelings as like a 10-year-old or whatever it was when I played it. Now, my favorite game for this had to be California Games. And listen, I haven't played any of these in years. I'm charging up a bunch of AA's right now. I want to see if this thing still works, and I'll fire it up later if it does. But California Games I loved as a kid. I remember it had like a BMX kind of trick bike mini game that you could play. It had, I think, hacky sack. And it was just really fun and just so different from any of the other games I'd played at that time. Pit Fighter, to be honest, I don't remember at all. I'll have to go back and watch a Let's Play of that myself. I'll put some footage in the background so you can see what Pit Fighter looks like. And then Double Dragon. You guys know what Double Dragon is. And Double Dragon's a company that will, or not Double Dragon, but whoever owns the license for it today, they push out that license no problem. This has already been licensed by the Arcade folks, and they haven't even come to market yet. Similarly, Evercade has the license to Double Dragon. I don't know that it'll be the Atari Lynx version, but they have the Double Dragon license, and you can see it on their homepage. Now, notably, this is the Atari Lynx Collection 1. There weren't a ton of Atari Lynx games, so I don't know how many collections we can get from this. But you can see from the image, and this is true for all of their cartridges, you get this really nice plastic case, kind of looks like an old Mega Drive case or something, Mega Drive game case. The cartridge itself is very small. It's similar to a GBA cart. It is its own proprietary format, which is kind of cool. And you want to play a different platform's games or a different publisher's games, you grab the hardware, you swap it out. Brilliant. That's what I want from my retro gaming. I'm not really that hype about downloading these games and playing them that way, but I like original hardware when it comes to retro stuff. It just makes it feel more nostalgic to me, and maybe to many of you, because this Evercade, like I said earlier, has a ton of hype, and I think is going to be just a huge smash hit. Now, let's talk about the hardware itself. It's the similar size to the PlayStation Portable, the PSP, and it has 4 to 5 hours of battery life. The cartridges, along with coming with a really nice looking case, they all come with custom manuals with really beautiful artwork specific to each game that is included. They look great and they have specific directions on how to play that game. Metal Jesus reports no noticeable lag. This is clearly software emulation, and clearly there is some lag, but I'm not a purist to that level. If I can't notice it, then I don't really care about it when it comes to lag. So he doesn't see any. That's kind of good enough for me. The screen is widescreen and you can stretch it, but you also have a 4:3 mode. And there's a micro HDMI out, which is a really cool addition. Now, here's what I didn't like, and I didn't even know this actually until I started watching some videos on it. The name Evercade, I assumed we were playing arcade games in a handheld form factor. Not the case. All the games released so far, or announced so far, I should say, they're console ports, or they're just outright console games. These are not arcade ROMs. Why is that? The company says they want to maintain a consistent 4:3 aspect ratio instead of having the custom shapes of the screen that you would get in arcade. You know, some were very narrow and tall, some were maybe square. They just were sort of all over the map, and they wanted that to be consistent to reduce confusion. Now, I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know that people who would buy this would care about that. I think we all kind of agree we want the image presented the way it originally was done. If you're an enthusiast enough to buy this product, you know, I don't think a lot of 10-year-olds are going to be buying this. I think it's going to be a lot of older guys who played these games before. Probably a similar market to Arcade One Up and At Games Legends Ultimate. But that was their choice. The silver lining, they do say that later in 2020, they are going to start releasing arcade collection carts, and those will have the true arcade ROM. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about buying like their Namco cart to get Pac-Man or something like that. That's the NES Pac-Man. If you want the real Pac-Man, you should probably wait on that particular cart. The next thing I'll say, I think this is the most exciting thing about this product, and it hasn't really been covered. They have a developer kit. That means they're inviting developers to create new games for this Evercade platform. And that is genius. I think there's a huge opening right now for new hardware that plays retro style games. So we can buy a hardware like this, and eventually you run out of old games to play. But if people are making new stuff in that vintage aesthetic with really great gameplay, I think we'd all want that. Look at how much of a hit Geometry Wars 1 and 2 were. And those products were like anti-marketed. They were just an Easter egg in a larger game that didn't even sell all that well, but people loved it. I think we want to play that retro style game, but on new hardware and with maybe some new tweaks and new, improved AI, for example, stuff like that just physically was not possible in 1989. I wonder what you guys think about this. I think this is going to be a successful product, but let's find out. I'm excited to see. I'm not familiar with the company behind Evercade, and I don't know if this is just, a brand new initiative or if this is a larger company, but they seem like they know what they're doing. They seem to be really fostering enthusiasm and that nostalgia, and it's easy to mess that up. We saw Sony do it with the PlayStation Mini. These guys seem to be doing it right with a product that properly pays homage to all of our personal memories. Is that interesting to you? Leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.